In a quiet village by the edge of a forest lived an old woman named Kamala. She was nearly 70, her hair silver like moonlight, her back bent with age, and her hands marked with the lines of a lifetime of labor. Her eyes sparkled with warmth, and her smile seemed to carry sunlight. Everyone in the village knew her, not because she was wealthy or powerful. She owned nothing but a small clay hut and a patch of land with a few vegetables, but because she was always happy. Rain or shine, feast or famine, Kamala's face carried the same glow of peace. Children loved to sit near her and listen to her stories. Farmers greeted her on their way to the fields. Even travelers stopped by her hut for a sip of water, often leaving with more peace than they had when they arrived. But behind her smile was a story of struggle. Kamala had lived through poverty, hunger, and loss. She had buried her husband young, raised 2 children alone, and even faced the heartbreak of losing one son to illness. Yet through it all, she never allowed bitterness to enter her heart. One evening, a group of young villagers gathered near her home. They were tired and frustrated. Crops had failed that season, and many were worried about their future. Seeing her sitting peacefully on her porch, one of them asked, "Mother, how can you smile when life has been so cruel to you? Don't you ever feel sad or angry?" Kamala looked at them, her smile never fading. "Of course, I feel sadness. I am human. I have cried many nights. But I learned something important in my long life. Happiness is not about what happens to us. It is about what we choose to carry in our hearts." The youngsters leaned closer. She continued, "When my husband died, I thought my world had ended. For weeks I cried and asked, why me? But one morning, as I sat outside, I saw a bird singing in the tree. It had no house, no stored food, yet it sang. And I thought, maybe happiness is not about having everything, but about finding joy in little things." The villagers were silent. Kamala went on, "Since then, whenever life struck me with pain, I reminded myself, sorrow is natural, but suffering is a choice. I could let pain break me, or I could use it to grow stronger. So I chose happiness. Not because everything was good, but because I refused to let the bad steal my peace." Her words touched them deeply, but some were still doubtful. A young man named Ramesh asked, "But mother, how can we be happy when crops fail, when debts rise, when children cry from hunger? Isn't happiness impossible in suffering?" Kamala's eyes softened. She invited them into her hut. On a small shelf was an old clay pot with cracks sealed by wax. She held it up and said, "Do you see this pot? It leaks if filled with water. But every morning I fill it with flowers. It cannot hold water, but it can still bring fragrance. Life is like this pot. It will always have cracks, pain, loss, problems. If you try to make it perfect, you will fail. But if you choose to fill it with gratitude, love, and joy, even a broken life can bring beauty." The room fell quiet. Young villagers looked at the old woman, not with pity, but with respect. She had nothing, yet she was richer in spirit than all of them. That night, many of them went home with lighter hearts. But for Kamala, this was not just philosophy. It was survival. Her happiness had been tested again and again, and each test had made her faith stronger. Weeks later, news spread that the river near the village had flooded. Fields were destroyed, homes damaged, and livestock lost. Fear and despair gripped the villagers. Many gathered outside the temple, crying and arguing about what to do. Kamala arrived slowly, leaning on her stick, her calm presence a contrast to the chaos. "Why are you all so restless?" she asked. "Mother," one man shouted, "we've lost everything. How can we be calm? How can we be happy?" She looked around at the frightened faces and said gently, "Happiness does not mean ignoring reality. Yes, we have lost crops. Yes, we are in pain. But ask yourself, is crying endlessly going to bring back what is gone? Or will it only take away the strength you need to rebuild?" The crowd fell silent. She pointed at the rising sun. "Do you see? After the darkest night, the sun still rises." Nature teaches us every day. Nothing lasts forever, not even pain. If we hold on to hope, we can start again. But if we hold on to despair, we will be lost before the journey even begins. Her words stirred something in the people. Instead of weeping, they began discussing solutions. Some worked to repair the fields, and others built temporary shelters. Kamala, though old, joined them, carrying small bundles of wood and cooking food for workers. Her presence reminded them, true happiness is not smiling when life is easy, but smiling even while you work through storms. One evening, after weeks of hard labor, the villagers gathered again near her hut. The flood had left scars, but life was returning to normal. A young woman asked her mother, "Where do you find such strength? Don't you ever feel broken?" Kamala chuckled softly, "Child, I do feel broken. But I have learned that happiness is not the absence of pain, it is the presence of meaning. When I lost my son, I thought my heart would never heal. But I found meaning in raising my grandson with love. When I lost wealth, I found meaning in helping neighbors. When I lost youth, I found meaning in guiding the young. If you live only for pleasure, happiness will escape you. But if you live for meaning, happiness will find you." She paused and added, "And remember, gratitude is the root of joy. Every morning, I thank life for breath in my lungs, for food, however small, for people around me. Gratitude turns little into enough, and enough into peace." Her words spread through the village like seeds. Slowly, people began practicing what she taught. Farmers laughed even while repairing fields. Mothers found joy in the giggles of children rather than in riches. And the village, though poor in wealth, became rich in spirit. Years later, when Kamala passed away peacefully in her sleep, the entire village wept, not in despair, but in gratitude. They said, "She taught us the greatest lesson, how to be happy in every situation. And this, my friends, is the secret she left behind. Happiness is not waiting for life to be perfect. It is choosing joy despite imperfections. Happiness is not in possessions. It is in gratitude, meaning, and love. Happiness is not found by chasing tomorrow. It is created today, in this very moment. So if you are struggling, remember Kamala's story. Life may break you, but you can still choose to smile. You may lose, but you can still choose to give. You may fall, but you can still choose to rise. Because happiness is not given by life. Happiness is given by you.